We don't want you embarrassing us at the resort, Dad announced. Mom agreed. Find a motel you can afford. I left silently. The hotel director's call made them freeze. The owner is reviewing your stay privileges. The family reunion was planned for the last week of July at the Grand View Resort and Spa in Lake Geneva. 3 generations of the Patterson family, all gathering to celebrate my grandparents' 60th wedding anniversary. The reservations had been made 9 months in advance, coordinated through a group chat I'd been removed from after asking too many questions about costs. I'd booked my own room separately. Same hotel, different confirmation number. I preferred it that way. When I pulled into the circular driveway in my aging Subaru, my brother Derek was already standing near the entrance with his wife, Brittany. They were unloading matching Louis Vuitton luggage from their Range Rover. Derek saw me and his expression soured immediately. Really, Maya, you actually came? I stepped out of my car, pulling my simple black rolling suitcase behind me. Of course I came. It's Grandma and Grandpa's anniversary. We thought you'd have the sense to skip it, Brittany said, adjusting her designer sunglasses. Given the circumstances. What circumstances? Derek laughed, harsh and sudden. The circumstances where you can barely afford to be here. This place is $500 a night, Maya, minimum, and that's before the resort fees and all the activities Dad has planned. I'm aware of the rates. Are you? Because last I checked, preschool teachers don't exactly make bank. He looked at my car, my suitcase, my simple cotton dress. You're going to stick out like a sore thumb all week. Designer dinners, spa days, golf tournaments. How exactly are you planning to pay for all that? I have savings. Brittany snorted. Savings, right? Listen, Maya, we're not trying to be mean, but this is embarrassing for all of us. You show up in your teacher clothes with your teacher car, counting pennies while the rest of us are trying to enjoy a luxury vacation. Then don't be embarrassed. I'll keep to myself. That's not how family reunions work, Derek said, stepping closer, lowering his voice. Look, there's a holiday in about 15 miles from here. Much more your speed. You could still come to the anniversary dinner on Saturday, but the rest of the week you could just not be here. I already have a reservation, which you probably can't afford, Derek said. Maya, come on, be realistic. My sister Charlotte emerged from the lobby, her heels clicking on the marble. She took one look at me and sighed deeply. Oh no, Maya, what are you doing here? She has a reservation, Derek said. I'm trying to convince her to cancel it. Charlotte's perfectly made-up face creased with worry. Maya, sweetie, did you talk to Dad? Because he specifically said he didn't think you should come. He didn't want you to feel pressured to spend money you don't have. Dad said that? Well, Mom said it, but Dad agreed, Charlotte said, touching my arm gently, her manicured nails bright red. We love you, you know that, but this week is going to be expensive, and we know teachers don't make much. We don't want you going into debt just to keep up appearances. I'm not going into debt. Then how are you paying for this? Derek challenged. Seriously, Maya, show us your bank statement. Prove you can actually afford to be here. I don't need to prove anything to you. See, because you can't, he said, turning to Charlotte. She can't afford it. She's going to put it all on credit cards and then spend the next 5 years paying it off. It's irresponsible. My father appeared in the doorway, his golf shirt crisp and his expression stern. Behind him, my mother wore a flowing resort dress and concern. Maya, Dad's voice had that disappointed tone I'd heard my entire childhood. We need to talk. About what? About this. He gestured vaguely at me, at my car, at everything. Charlotte told us you were still planning to come despite our conversation. We didn't have a conversation. Charlotte had a conversation with me, Mom said, stepping forward, her voice pleading. We're worried about you, honey. This place costs a fortune. Every meal, every activity, every little thing. We don't want you to bankrupt yourself trying to keep up with everyone. I'm not trying to keep up with anyone. Then why are you here? Dad's question was sharp. If you're not trying to prove something, why insist on coming to a resort you clearly can't afford? It's Grandma and Grandpa's anniversary. And you could celebrate that at the dinner on Saturday without spending thousands of dollars you don't have on a week at a luxury resort, he said, crossing his arms. Maya, I'm going to be blunt. We don't want you here. Not because we don't love you, but because we don't want you embarrassing yourself or us. The words hung in the air between us. Embarrassing you, I repeated slowly. You know what I mean, Dad said, but his eyes shifted away from mine. You're a teacher. You make what, 40,000 a year, maybe 50. And you're standing here at a resort where people drop that much in a week. You don't belong here, and deep down you know it. Brittany nodded supportively. It's like if I tried to hang out with actual celebrities. Sure, I could technically be in the same room, but everyone would know I didn't belong. It would be awkward for everyone. We just want to enjoy this week, Charlotte added, without worrying about you, without feeling guilty every time we order wine or book a spa treatment because we know you're sitting in your room counting dollars. I won't be in my room counting dollars. Then, what will you be doing? Derek demanded. Because all the activities Dad planned are expensive. The golf tournament entry alone is $300 per person. The wine tasting is $200. The sunset yacht cruise is $500. Are you going to sit them all out? Just wander around the resort by yourself while the family does things together. Or worse, try to join in and put it all on credit cards, Brittany added. Which is just sad, Maya, really sad. My mother's eyes were wet. We're saying this out of love. We don't want you to spend the next year digging yourself out of debt because you were too proud to admit you couldn't afford a vacation. Find a motel you can afford, Dad said firmly. Something reasonable. You can still come to the anniversary dinner, but the rest of the week you need to go. This isn't your world, Maya. It never has been. I looked at each of them in turn, Derek with his arms crossed, confident in his superiority. Brittany, checking her phone, already bored with the conversation. Charlotte, looking sympathetic but immovable. Mom, wringing her hands, worried but agreeing. Dad, standing rigid, waiting for me to comply. Okay, I said quietly. Dad blinked. Okay, I'll leave. You won't be embarrassed by me. Relief flooded their faces. Mom actually smiled. Oh, honey, I'm so glad you're being reasonable about this. We'll see you on Saturday for dinner and it'll be lovely. No pressure, no stress. Sure, Mom. I got back in my Subaru, started the engine, and drove out of the circular driveway. In my rearview mirror, I saw them already moving toward the entrance, laughing about something, the tension of the confrontation dissolving like it had never happened. I drove exactly 1 mile down the road to the coffee shop in the small town center, ordered a latte, and sat down at a window table with my phone. Then I made a call. Good morning, Miss Patterson. James Trix answered on the first ring. James was the regional director for Grand View Luxury Resorts, overseeing all 7 properties in the portfolio, including the flagship location in Lake Geneva, where my family was currently checking in. How can I help you? Hi, James. I need you to pull up the reservation for the Patterson family reunion. It should be under Gerald Patterson. One moment, I heard typing. Yes, I have it. Party of 23 booked through Saturday. Presidential suite, 4 luxury suites and 6 standard rooms. Very nice group booking. I need you to flag it. Flag it how? Owner review. All charges, all activities, all privileges. I want to be notified of every single thing they do this week. There was a pause. Is there a problem? Let's call it due diligence. How many complaints has that property received in the past quarter? Lake Geneva, maybe 3 or 4, nothing serious. Why? And how much has it received about the Patterson party specifically? None that I'm aware of, but they just checked in 20 minutes ago. Right. Well, keep me updated. If there are any issues with guest behavior, staff treatment, anything at all, I want to know immediately. Of course, Miss Patterson. I'll make sure the property director is aware. Thank you, James. I ended the call and sipped my latte. Through the window, I could see the lake sparkling in the distance. The Grand View Resort sat on the northern shore, all glass and elegance, with its private beach and championship golf course. I bought it 3 years ago. Well, I'd bought the parent company that owned it, along with 6 other luxury properties scattered across the Midwest. The total acquisition had cost me $42 million, funded by the tech company sale that my family still knew nothing about because I'd never told them. After teaching for 6 years, I'd spent my evenings building an educational software platform, something I genuinely cared about that helped teachers manage classrooms more effectively. I'd worked on it alone at first, then hired developers as it gained traction. Within 3 years, we had 12,000 schools using it. When a major education technology corporation offered to buy it, I'd said yes. The sale netted me $68 million after taxes. I kept teaching for another year because I loved it. Then I'd quietly transitioned to consulting and started investing. Real estate felt tangible, understandable. Hotels seemed like a natural fit. The Grand View chain was struggling when I bought it. Good properties, poor management, no vision. I'd replaced the executive team, upgraded facilities, and implemented new training programs for staff. Within 2 years, we were profitable again. Within 3, we were thriving. My family knew I'd changed jobs. They knew I did something with consulting. They'd never asked for details, and I'd never offered them. When I showed up in my sensible car wearing Target dresses, they'd made assumptions. I'd let them. Now I was wondering if that had been a mistake. My phone rang. James Atrix again. "That was fast," I said. "You're going to want to hear this," he said, sounding tense. "I just got a call from Margaret. She's the property director at Lake Geneva. Apparently your father demanded to speak with management about 10 minutes ago." "About what?" "He's claiming there was a booking error. Says a room was reserved under the name Maya Patterson, and he wants it canceled immediately. Says the person who booked it isn't actually coming and he doesn't want to be charged for it." I closed my eyes. What did Margaret tell him? That she couldn't cancel a reservation without authorization from the guest who made it. He got aggressive, started saying he's the head of the family party, that he should have authority over all the bookings, that it's ridiculous a hotel wouldn't listen to a guest spending over $50,000 for the week. 50,000? I whistled. He's really going all out. Apparently, Margaret held firm on policy, but he's demanding to speak to her supervisor. He's in the lobby right now, making a scene. "Tell Margaret I'm coming back." 20 minutes. "You're coming here. I own the place, James. I can come whenever I want." I heard him smile. "Fair point. I'll let her know." The drive back to the resort took 15 minutes. I parked in the owner's reserved spot, a space my family would have walked right past without noticing, and entered through the side entrance that led directly to the administrative offices. Margaret Chin was in her office, on the phone, looking stressed. She was 53, brilliant at her job, and had been with Grand View for 6 years, 3 before my acquisition and 3 after. We'd worked closely during the renovation process. She knew my family was here. She didn't know they were my family. She looked up when I walked in and relief flooded her face. She wrapped up her call quickly. "Miss Patterson, thank goodness, James filled me in. Is my father still in the lobby?" "Your father?" She blinked. "Gerald Patterson is your father?" "Unfortunately." "Oh no, oh Miss Patterson, I'm so sorry. If I'd known." "You handled it exactly right, don't apologize." I sat down across from her desk. "Tell me what happened." She explained the confrontation. Dad had approached the desk, demanding the cancellation. When the front desk clerk explained they needed authorization from the guest who made the reservation, he'd raised his voice, said it was absurd that a hotel wouldn't work with its biggest spender of the week, implied the clerk was being difficult on purpose, and demanded a manager. Margaret had come out, reiterated the policy, and offered to try calling the guest to request authorization. Dad had refused, saying it was unnecessary, that he was telling them to cancel it, and that should be enough. "He's still out there," Margaret said, "sitting in the lobby with your mother and siblings, complaining loudly about poor customer service. Other guests are starting to notice." "I see." I stood up. "Let me handle this." "Are you sure?" "I can have security." "No security, not yet. Let me talk to them first." I walked down the hallway toward the lobby, my footsteps silent on the plush carpeting. Through the glass doors, I could see my family clustered near the fireplace. Dad was gesturing emphatically while talking to Derek. Mom looked embarrassed. Charlotte was on her phone. I pushed open the doors and walked straight to the front desk. The clerk, a young woman named Sarah who'd been with us for 8 months, looked relieved to see me. "Miss Patterson," she said quietly, "I'm so sorry about the situation." "You did great, Sarah." "Don't worry." I raised my voice slightly. "Now I understand there's an issue with a room reservation." Dad's head snapped up. He strode over to the desk, ready for another fight. Finally, someone with authority. He didn't even look at me, his eyes on Sarah. "I need you to cancel a reservation made under the name Maya Patterson. The guest isn't coming, and I refuse to pay for an empty room." "I can't cancel that reservation, sir," I said calmly. "Why not?" "I'm telling you, she's not coming. Because the guest who made the reservation is standing right here." He turned to me, then really looked at me for the first time since I'd entered. "What are you doing here? I thought you left." "I did leave." "I came back." "Why would you?" He stopped, confused. "Wait, did you talk to them? Did you convince them to let you stay?" I don't need anyone's permission to stay here, Dad. Yes, you do. I'm not paying for your room. You want to be here so badly, you can pay for it yourself. I am paying for it myself, I always was. With what money? Derek had joined us now, Brittany at his elbow. Maya, seriously, this is getting pathetic. Just admit you can't afford this place and go. I can afford it. Stop lying, Dad said, his voice rising. Other guests were definitely watching now. We all know you barely make enough to cover rent. You drive a 15-year-old car. You shop at Target. You're a preschool teacher, for God's sake. I was a preschool teacher, now I'm a hotel owner. The silence was immediate and total. Charlotte laughed nervously. What? I own this hotel and 6 others. I turned to Sarah. Sarah, can you pull up the ownership records for Grandview Lake Geneva? She typed quickly, her fingers shaking slightly. Yes, ma'am. Property owned by Grandview Luxury Resorts LLC. Principal owner, Maya Elizabeth Patterson. Dad's face was white. That's not possible. It's very possible. I bought the company 3 years ago after selling my educational software business. The sale netted me $68 million. I invested $42 million of it in acquiring Grandview. Mom made a small sound, like air escaping. You sold a business? Charlotte's voice was faint. What business? Classroom Connect. It's an educational platform used by about 40,000 schools now. I built it while teaching. Sold it in 2022. Derek was shaking his head. No, this is some kind of joke. It's not a joke. Margaret had appeared beside me, her expression professional but her eyes sharp. Miss Patterson has owned these properties for 3 years. She's been an excellent owner, very hands-on during renovations, very supportive of staff, very committed to the guest experience. But you're a teacher, Mom said. You teach preschool. I did teach preschool. I loved it. But I also built a company on the side, and when someone wanted to buy it, I sold it. Then I kept teaching for a while because I enjoyed it and eventually transitioned to consulting and investing. Why didn't you tell us? Dad demanded. I tried to remember when I said I'd changed jobs and was doing consulting work. You said consulting was just a fancy word for unemployment. When I mentioned I'd made some good investments, Derek said I probably put $100 in an index fund. When I offered to help Charlotte with her business startup costs, she said she didn't need pity money from her struggling sister. Each example landed like a physical blow. I could see them remembering, the memories clicking into place. But you still dress like, Brittany gestured at my outfit, like you shop at clearance sales. I shop at clearance sales. I like a good deal. Why would I spend $300 on a shirt when I can get one I like just as much for $30? And your car, Derek started, is reliable, fuel-efficient, and paid off. I don't care about cars. Why would I spend money on something I don't care about? Your apartment, Charlotte said weakly. I live in a 3-bedroom condo in Lincoln Park that I own outright. It has 1 bedroom because I don't need more space. Why would I maintain empty rooms? Dad sank into a nearby chair. This can't be real. It's very real, Dad. You're standing in the lobby of a hotel I own. You just tried to cancel my reservation at my own property, and for the past hour, you've been complaining about customer service to staff who report directly to me. Margaret stepped forward. Mr. Patterson, I need to inform you that hotel policy requires respectful treatment of all staff members. The complaints you made to the front desk staff were noted. Miss Patterson has instructed us to flag your party for owner review. Owner review? Mom looked panicked. What does that mean? It means every aspect of your stay will be monitored, I said quietly. Every charge, every activity, every interaction with staff. Any further issues and your stay privileges can be revoked. Stay privileges? Dad's voice cracked. Maya, you can't be serious. You're going to kick us out? You kicked me out 2 hours ago, told me I didn't belong here, told me to find a motel I could afford. We didn't know. Know what? That I own the place or that I could actually afford to be here. I looked at each of them. Would it have mattered if I was just a teacher who'd saved up for this vacation? Would I have belonged then? No one answered. That's what I thought. I turned to Margaret. The Patterson party can stay, but the owner review flag remains active. Any staff complaints, any behavioral issues, any problems at all, I want to know immediately. Yes, ma'am. Maya, wait. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. I have a reservation here, a room I paid for. I'm going to check in now and enjoy the facilities. You all can do the same, but if you approach me, if you mistreat me, if you try to have another family meeting about how I don't belong here, I will have security escort you from the property. Are we clear? Dad's face was red. You can't do this, we're family. The family who told me I was an embarrassment, family who didn't want me here. I kept my voice level. I'm giving you what you wanted. You get to enjoy your luxury vacation without worrying about your poor sister counting pennies. I'll be here too, but you won't have to acknowledge me. You can pretend I don't exist, just like you've been pretending my success doesn't exist for 3 years. We didn't know about your success, Charlotte protested. You never told us. I tried to tell you, you didn't listen. You made assumptions about who I was and what I was worth, and you never questioned those assumptions. Not once in 3 years did any of you ask me about my work, my investments, my life. You just decided I was failing and treated me accordingly. Sarah handed me a key card. Room 412, Miss Patterson, top floor, Lakeview, your usual suit. Thank you, Sarah. I took the key, then looked back at my family one last time. Enjoy your vacation. Try to be kind to the staff. They work hard. I walked toward the elevators, my rolling suitcase trailing behind me. Behind me, I could hear my family erupting into urgent, whispered conversation, but I didn't turn around. The elevator doors closed and I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. My phone buzzed. A text from James H. Ricks. Margaret briefed me. Are you okay? I typed back. Fine, just tired. Take the rest of the day. Decompress. I'll handle anything that comes up. Thanks, James. Another text, this time from Charlotte. Maya, please, we need to talk. This is insane. You can't just shut us out. Then Derek, you're being extremely immature about this. So we made a mistake. Get over it. Then Brittany, if you're really rich, why do you act so poor? That's honestly kind of manipulative. Then Mom, sweetheart, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. Let's have dinner tonight and work this out like adults. Then Dad, this is absurd. I'm your father. You will speak to me with respect. I turned my phone off. The suite was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, a king bed with luxury linens, a marble bathroom with a soaking tub. I'd stayed here dozens of times while overseeing renovations and operations. It felt more like home than my family had in years. I ordered room service, changed into comfortable clothes, and sat on the balcony watching boats drift across the water while the sun set in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in this hotel, my family was probably still talking about me, trying to understand, trying to reconcile the sister they thought they knew with the reality they just discovered. Maybe feeling guilty, maybe feeling angry, maybe both. But that wasn't my problem to solve. I'd spent 3 years being quietly successful while they assumed I was struggling. 3 years of gentle corrections that were ignored, of accomplishments that were dismissed, of trying to share my life with people who'd already decided what my life was. I was done trying. Tomorrow, I'd go to the spa, book a massage, maybe play a round of golf, and enjoy the resort I'd worked hard to restore and maintain. And if I happened to see my family in the hallways or restaurants, I'd smile politely and keep walking. They wanted me to find a place I belonged. I had. It just wasn't with them. My phone, still off, sat on the nightstand. I knew when I turned it back on, there would be more messages, more demands for explanations, for conversations, for me to make them feel better about treating me poorly. But not tonight. Tonight, I was going to soak in the enormous bathtub, watch a movie on the premium television, and sleep in 1,000 thread-count sheets at the hotel I owned. And tomorrow, I'd see if my family could manage to get through one day without embarrassing themselves at my resort. Somehow, I doubted it.